Hey, what's good, family? This is your man Wood. Thanks for clicking on another Bite Down Boxing video. Again, I am Wood, host of the Bite Down Boxing podcast. Pretty big news today in the world of boxing with the announcement of, according to Leonard Ellerbe, that's Mayweather Promotions, Leonard Ellerbe, the biggest fight of 2019. All happened in the first month of the year, in January. But let's get into it. Today in New York City, the first of two, I believe the second one is in Los Angeles, I want to say. But it was announced that, as you can see down here at the bottom, Manny Pacquiao, the WBA, it's kind of a misnomer, right? It's like WBA welterweight champion, but it's the regular version, I believe, is what it is with the WBA regular. But he'll be defending that title against Adrien Broner, Adrien the Problem Broner, January 19, 2019, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. Just gonna run through a couple of quick points and just some observations from the press conference today. Obviously, a good matchup. The event will be airing live on Showtime pay-per-view. I'm not a big fan of that. We'll see what happens as the fight, gets closer. See what additional news comes out of the two camps. I do want to make a quick note. I got a video on the channel, if you check down on the playlist, where I talked with Adrien Broner's trainer, Coach Mike Stafford, out of Cincinnati, Ohio, last month. So the announcement, made it official today, but me and Coach Stafford talked about it at an event, a club card down in Cincinnati last month. So, whatever. Anyway, two fighters here with wonderful accomplishments, all types of accolades. Manny Pacquiao, the game's only 8-time champion. Adrien Broner, the youngest to make it, the youngest to accomplish 4 division championship world titles in 4 divisions. 2 guys, highly skilled guys. A bit of a crossroads fight, I guess. I mean, Pacquiao recently signed, a new member of the PBC family, unexpectedly. Comes over and joins where the majority of the welterweight champions currently sit or reside. And, it presents this opportunity to have his matchup with Adrien Broner. Adrien Broner, kind of interesting that he keeps falling up, in a sense. If you remember, last time out, draw with Jesse Vargas. So how do you, one of boxing's conundrums, how do you find yourself into a title fight for whatever version of the belt? But that's the way the game works out sometimes. The boxing schedule, fighter availability, promotional affiliation, etc., etc. So it's what we get. This could be a prelude to the a possible, rematch with Floyd Mayweather. It could be a prelude to Mayweather versus Adrien Broner and their ongoing rivalry of sorts. So feel free in the comments, if you want to chop it up about the merits of this fight. If you're excited about it, if you're a fan of it, if you have a problem with with either of the fighters, let's talk about it. I'm going to get into about 5 points real quick, and I'm going to jump on off of here. Check out the fourth quarter of this, the NFL's game of the year between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Rams over here. But I just thought a couple of things were pretty interesting. One, I hate to get into the semantics and kind of contradict myself a little bit here, but just listening to how they rolled this out, promoters have to promote. And, it's interesting to see, because I see a lot of criticism hurled at Eddie Hearn. I see a lot hurled at, aimed at Bob Arum. I see a lot of defense of the PBC, a lot of criticism of the PBC. And it just stands to reason. Eddie Hearn had to do some cleaning up the other night after the Kansas event. And here today, this is not I don't think this is the ideal matchup, but it is a way to kick off the 2019 boxing calendar. It is. But I just heard the word must see. This is a must-see fight, And I apologize for anybody that's in the chat. I'm using a different program to do my broadcast or my live stream. So if you're in the chat, I'm not interacting with the chat in case anybody is out there. I appreciate it. Thanks for pressing play, clicking on this link. But, must-see, all action-packed, AB and his wealth of skills. I think Custer even referred to Adrien as aggressive, or maybe Leonard Ellaby referred to him as aggressive. But we all know the constant criticism against AB is whether or not is his punch output. So I won't get into the clash of styles right now. We'll do that as the fight moves closer. The obvious questions are out there. What can Pacquiao do? I don't know if he's 40 yet. I closed out BoxRec accidentally, but he's got to be, near 40 or at 40. Got his first knockout in 9 years in his last fight against Lucas Matisse. AB, no knockouts since 2016, when I believe he took care of Ashley Theophane. But AB let it be known that he's coming not just to get a check, but he's coming to stop Pacquiao. So that was my first point, was just the colorful language that was used to describe boxing's biggest fight of 2019. Second point was in introducing Adrien Broner and talking about Broner. There was no mention of his outing against Mikey Garcia and Jesse Vargas. They went all the way back to the action that you saw in Marcos Chino Maidana. They mentioned that, and I believe Sean Porter, which were both losses, tough fights, exciting fights to a degree. He did have a 12 round knockdown of Porter, and fought back in a very brutal fight, rough fight with Maidana. And so that's what was mentioned, not the fact that, he probably lost 8-4, 9-3 by a lightweight who was coming up to 140. And then in Vargas, that fight was what it was. But I just picked up on that. Again, that's promoter speak, promotional speak. Next point was Leonard Ellaby. I already alluded to it a couple of times with him saying that he did preface it with, personally, the most exciting fight of 2019 for himself. Maybe he doesn't plan on watching anything else in 2019, but I would have to believe, obviously, if either one of these guys win, if it's not a draw, the next fight would probably be a bigger fight, possibly. So, again, it's probably the most exciting fight of January 2019. But, like I said, he's got to go up there and say something. Next point. Everybody else was trying to be a professional Give us a good press conference, present this. Like I said, there's some people that would argue that Adrien Broner might not even deserve this opportunity. And in the midst of all of this professionalism and, everybody trying to, look the part, act the part, AB had to release AB on everybody and get into his profanity. And, I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm not trying to sit here and say whatever, how he should conduct himself, and it was inappropriate. It was streamed on Showtime. That's what he brings to the table. He's bringing and he's representing his following, and you do wonder a little bit if it's a little bit of nervousness. It kind of maybe lets you peek into his mentality just a little bit, maybe. I don't know what you pick up from it, but again, to just get in a room full of people where everybody's kind of, it was all in front of media, so people are trying to get their stories. I was emailed the transcript of and I read it over lunch. I read the transcript of the press conference, and AB's paragraphs that was in the article, it was all cleaned up and edited. It was all censored, I guess. So I thought it was, on the up and up. And then I get to check in on some of the boxing forums on Facebook. It was a number of brothers that said, I'm tired of messing with this clown, or, he's a comedian at this point. And that's what I'm saying. For me, some of the stuff isn't even really funny. But hey, I'm not here to bash the man. That's how he wanted to present himself. The funniest thing, though, what was funny was after Brian Custer said a couple of things, asked a few questions, and tried to, do his part, once again, playing his role, being professional. Broner got into something about, man, I might have to knock you out. And then he said something else, and all of a sudden, Brian Custer had to turn into Reverend Brown from Coming to America. I think that was like the first bit of profanity from Broner. And it was like when Reverend Brown came out behind Randy Watson. And, it was like, give it up for Randy Watson one more time. And he just really didn't even know, like, he knows AB, of course he does, but he didn't know what to expect, and he didn't really know what to do with it. So, but him being the professional that he was, he adjusted and got back on his game, and it was just like, that's AB being AB. But and if you remember the last time in the press conference before the Vargas fight, you remember that AB got into it with Ellaby and called him a couple of names and everything, and it got feisty between those two gentlemen. So, shout out to BC for, bringing it all together. I just thought it was pretty interesting, the little pause there where he scrambled to kind of figure out how to get this thing, back on the, to rein this back in and finish the press conference. And then lastly, one thing that did kind of incite or infuriate AB was, I thought Custer asked him a question about, Custer was asking Pacquiao several questions about Mayweather and a potential rematch. And then it went back over to AB. And, rightfully so. AB was like, we're not here to talk about Floyd, F. Floyd. And, this is about me. This is my moment. This is time for me to reclaim, some of the ground that I've lost in the game the last couple of years and whatnot. So I just thought that was interesting to see, a couple of shots get fired, especially when Mayweather Promotions is part of it. About Billions Promotions is also has some promotional credits in this, as their co-head Ravon Littlejohn spoke. So that was pretty much it. again, like I said, I gotta warm up to this fight just a little bit. You know, and for the people out here that are just 100% pro Broner, and maybe would look at me or say make some kind of comment to me for being kind of lukewarm on AB. You know, I just don't know what he is at this point. And sometimes, you know, you gotta make sure that both of your eyes are open when you listen to somebody tell you what they are. And you know, here's a guy that's been out here the last 4 years, hasn't said a word about any of the you know, the top guys at 140, whether it's a pro grade, whether it was Crawford when he was undisputed at 140. You know, nothing to Jesse Ramirez, who's on the other side of the street. But yeah, just hasn't said anything to those guys, and then really hasn't said anything to any of, you know, the Thurman or Errol Spence Jr., there's a relationship there with those guys. So he's really just been in limbo the last couple of years. They've been working on this fight, you know, a couple of times over the last few years, but the numbers weren't right, according to AB. So, one thing, you know, for the people that are commenting that AB has a belly or is overweight, I mean, you do know what part of the purpose for training camp is to get in shape, is to make weight. So, I mean, it makes it better if you can cut that weight. I mean, if the weight is right and you can focus more on sharpening up your skills. But we know that AB has had problems, you know, problems with the scale has plagued him the last several years. But 147 is, you know, seems to be a comfortable weight for him to make. So, yeah. And like I said, with me talking to Stafford back at the beginning of October, he's been doing some work since that point. He's not just starting out. So, in his defense, you know, I mean, people, we watch these videos and we just want to comment and be heard and be the first to say something and exercise our knowledge of the game and everything. But, you know, everything that you want to say or every thought that you have doesn't need to be spoken. But plenty of time for him to get, I've seen some of the footage with him and Cunningham down in, you know, West Palm Beach, I believe they're in. Is where Cunningham's complex is or whatever. So, yeah, that was pretty much it. No price on the pay-per-view at this point in time. I mean, hell, we don't even know what Fury and Wilder cost at this point. Tickets, I believe, they had a release date for the tickets and all that. Maybe I'll put that up at bitedownboxing.com later. I'm sure it's out there at most sites at this point. At most websites, you can get the cost of the tickets. I know it was like $1,500, I believe, was the most expensive. $1,000, $750, $350. I think the most inexpensive or least expensive ticket was, I thought, $100. But anyway, like I said, I might have that up later on tonight while I watch this fourth quarter that has already started. Hey, I appreciate you clicking on this link, watching the video, checking in with me. Please, wide open for 6. Chiefs get back in it. Yeah, please click on the link. I mean, so please subscribe to the channel. Continue to support what I'm trying to do. Hit that like button if you don't mind, and all of the places to reach me up there at the top. Feel free to holler at me. Let's chop it up about whatever. Like I say, with everything, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Let's enjoy the fight when it comes our way.